Lewis Hart for the Ring magazine. Delighted to be joined with Eddie Hearn here. Just concluded the press conference for George Kambosos against Jake Wyllie. Bit of a spicy one. Like, I thought it was all respect. It was quite lively.
This is a great show. I mean, obviously you got a big all-Australian clash. I love Kambosos against Wyllie. You know, it's the guy that's been there, done it all in Australian boxing, and a young knockout artist who's looking to just take his crown in a way and try and change his life. And it's a dangerous fight. You know, I feel like George got the hump a little bit because he feels almost disrespected that he's not kind of getting the credit from Jake Wyllie. Wyllie says, I see holes in him, I know I can beat him. And it's a really, really good fight, with big action. And Skye, Nicolson, Tara Brown, brilliant face-to-face again. Shanika against Nina Hughes is going to be a war. Teremoana, you know, Iman Kassiev over there, one of the most dangerous men in boxing, pound for pound, and looking forward to a massive show in Sydney at the weekend.
When it comes to George, and even though it was a lot respectful, do you feel like he's one of these fighters that he almost needs that edge that gets like the 10% out of him? But
yeah, I think with George, it's like, I think because this market is not, you know, there's knowledgeable fight fans here, but when you get beat, people just think, oh well, that's the end. And you know, I think some of the kind of mindset of the people in Australia is, well, we've seen Kambosos lose 3 times, but they don't go, well, we saw him lose to Haney twice and Lomachenko. Do you know what I mean? And I think that he hasn't really got the credit he deserves for Australian boxing. And now all of a sudden his back's against the wall, because if he gets beat by Jake Wyllie, his career's over. And if he wins, he'll go on and fight Richardson Hitchens in New York. So like the difference in the 2 results is so massive that the pressure's on for him, and he must win, and he must win in style.
Yeah, have to ask about Skye, Nicolson and Tara Brown. Yeah. Really nice back. That face-off was fiery. Yeah, it's a real exciting
because like when we did the face-off on Matchroom, they kind of, I say they got on, but like it was like there was a bit of mutual respect, and I think there is. I think that Skye acknowledges that Tara Brown's a very good fighter and a serious fighter, and I think deep down Tiara thinks the same. You know, I think there's a real misconception that, you know, you can run through, you know, the challenge of these fighters with great footwork, and like you can, you know, just cut them off. And we've seen it before. Skye's footwork and judge of distance is incredible. You know, I'm talking about like, you know, Shakur Stevenson and Usyk and like these kind of people. It's not just a case of I'm going to go in there, I'm going to cut you down from the waist down, and like you've got to cut her off and find a way. But Tiara's very good. You know, this is not just some fighter with no pedigree or no background saying they're going to do it. This is a former world amateur champion. This is a fighter who's 18-0 with a big knockout percentage. It's a very dangerous fight, and it's one of the best fights in the division. But if you're a special fighter, these are the kind of moments where you'll show it. And if Skye is that kind of fighter, she'll beat Tara Brown convincingly. If she's not, it's going to be a very, very tough fight. And you know, it's a brilliant. I mean, Tara's been great in the build-up, and that's what you want, because you want that. You know, Skye's never the person sort of stand there and start screaming and shouting, but she's getting it stuck on her now, and it's like, you know, you got to deliver on Saturday night, and the pressure's on.
For Skye as well, like she's made no secret wanting to chase the big fights, and she's made no secret about like her as a pro so far. She's not really had to get out of second, third, fourth, you know, gone through the gears. So I'll ask you as a promoter, like, what do you look at for potential big fights for her? Like, would it be someone like Ellie Scottney?
I mean, look, I think Skye would go down to super bantamweight and fight Ellie Scottney for the unified championship. Obviously, you know, we could look at the fight at featherweight as well. That's a good fight. Skye's got ambitions to win every championship, every belt. And that's the first priority, is after this fight to try and unify. If we can't unify, there's loads of fights out there, but you know, I think that these female fighters have got the ability to drop down a weight, go up to super feather. You know, I mean, I just think this is the fight that's going to really show us, like, there's still, you know, she keeps ticking the boxes. Sarah Mahfood, you know, Raven Chapman, Vargas, like these kind of fighters, and people are believing now. But I think this is the fight for people to say, yeah, do you know what, she's the real deal. And I'm not sure she gets beat. I've got to be honest with you. Like, I think she's that good. But now's the kind of like the acid test. They've said that before. But I think this is a real test on Saturday night.
Teremoana, he talking about Justice Hooney as well. I mean,
there's a lot of people, you know, a lot of the media are saying, oh, what do you think, Teremoana against Justice Hooney? I said, look, guys, you've got a bit of time for that. Justice Hooney's #1 in the world. He's a tremendous fighter. One day, I believe you could see Teremoana against Hooney for the world heavyweight title in Australia. Either way, that fight's going to be big. It's 12 to 18 months before we should even start talking about that yet. But Teremoana is a serious fighter. For me, one of the best prospects in world heavyweight boxing, a great character. And old mate James Singh can bring it on Saturday, because I've seen that.
I'm glad you brought it up.
It's very difficult to get the opponents in this part of the world. You know, because you're reliant upon the territory. but I just want James Singh to come and be tough enough to stand up to the barrage, and that's going to be difficult to do.
Yeah, just a couple more from myself. You spoke about Jack Catterall, boxing scene, about potentially fighting George Kambosos. Ideally, when you look at Catterall's return, those sort of names are straight back into elite.
He was, I said to Sam Jones after the defeat, what do you want to do? Do you want to come back with a comeback win, or do you want? Oh no, just the biggest fight possible. So whether that's, there's talk of Josh Taylor 3, whether that's George Kambosos, whether that's even a shot at the World Championship, whether that's a catchweight, a welterweight, whatever. Jack's just up for the big fights, and he's staying ready for May 2nd. If there's a dropout, he's ready to jump in, and if not, he'll be back in the back end of the summer in Manchester. Yeah, because Sam Jones also spoken in a few interviews about the Josh Taylor trilogy potentially being on the Queensberry Matchroom 5 versus 5. Is there any timeline that we could see that 5v5 again, do you think? Yeah, I think back end of the summer, same kind of dates. Look, I think the plan for Jack Catterall pre-Barbosa was just to fight for the World Championship. Now that's taken a backward step, so you look for the big fights, and if that's Josh Taylor again, great. Kambosos, there's other fights as well for him at 140, so Jack's going to be in a big fight next for sure.
Have to ask you about Crocker Donovan too. What's the latest? I know you spoke about the rematch.
Yeah, so the IBF team Donovan logged a rematch appeal or an appeal with the IBF regarding the decision, and I believe the result of that is imminent.
Okay.
So we will find out very soon. Honestly, I think it's 50-50.
All right, yeah.
I don't know. You saw, people were calling for Nick Ball to be disqualified on Saturday night, and obviously Donovan got disqualified, but he was taking a couple of it's very difficult. And it's an independent panel with the IBF of real boxing people, and they will have to make a decision. Both teams have submitted the case, and the result will be imminent.
If there is a rematch, and let's say the IBF order it, could there be a potential timeline where we see it on the Taylor Serrano 3 card? Would that be? Would you like that?
No, because that's going to be an all-female card.
Oh,
so
sorry,
I think realistically, if there is a rematch, you'll see it outdoors in Belfast at the back end of the summer.
Would that be Windsor Park? Would you say?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. Do have to ask you about Chris Eubank Jr. again. Yeah. He's had a little bit of a reaction to our interview yesterday, talking about you trying to squirm out the bear, etc. I guess.
Look, to be honest with you, I don't know whether he saw the issue from the board. That did come to every member, so probably. Yeah. But when I kind of wasn't hot-headed with Shalom. He stuck it on me about 100 grand bet, and I said, "We'll make it $1 million." Yeah. And then he went away and said, "Well, we can't bet because of the board," which is right. If you don't know, we had the same thing with Jake Paul.
Yeah.
If you remember Taylor Serrano, he wanted $1 million bet with me. Mm-hmm. And I accepted it, and then we're told by the lawyers and everybody, guys, it's a violation of the rules. You can't bet. Yeah. Well, I was actually not bothered about that, and then we won the fight, and I wish we would have. Yeah. But and it's the same here. If I bet on a fight, I'll lose my license. Yeah. So obviously, and he knows that. Yeah. So it's great to go out and go viral on it. But I just repost all this stuff. I think it's great. Listen, anytime anyone's mentioning my name, it's great. It just keeps me relevant. Yeah. So Chris is doing a great job, and. Was it 7 weeks this Saturday?
Yeah, it's not far at all. Yeah.
Is it 7 weeks this Saturday? Yeah, something like that.
Final one for myself. Really good news coming out about 2028 LA Summer Olympics. Looks like we will see boxing in there. You've had so many fighters turn pro yourself from Olympics, so to see that still carried on, you must be delighted as a promoter to see that. So happy because it's so important. It's not just important for the ecosystem of boxing, but important for young amateurs. We're trying to. It's that sort of cradle to grave mentality of boxing, where you walk through that boxing club for the first time through an ABC, and dreams to become a world champion, to become an Olympic champion. And when I push boxing to the younger generation, I don't really push it about becoming a champion. Once you step through those doors, your life can change forever in so many positive ways. It could, really focus your mindset to focus on a career. Or if you've got, some kind of anger or temper, it can sort that out. If you're not physically fit, it can sort that out. If you're struggling mentally, it can sort that out. If you're a bad kid and you struggle with authority, it can give you the discipline and the respect and the manners. So I never push kids through the front door of a boxing club to necessarily just become a champion. Yeah. But you've got to have aspirations for the elite in those clubs. Yeah. And that is going through the system, winning the ABAs, getting on the England team, getting on the Team GB team, signing for the podium squad, fighting in World Championship events, Commonwealth Games, and going to the Olympics. That's the path. Because if young people with ability don't see a path, then they won't turn up.
Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like, I know this is irrelevant for your channel, it's a bit like darts.
No.
You see a Luke Littler, right? And now you've got so many young kids going, I want to be the next Luke Littler. Well, if there was no opportunity for those kids, then you buy a board, you play, and then you go and think, well, this is like... There's a career in darts. You know, there's a qualifying school, there's a youth tour, you know, there's a pro tour, there's all the championship events, there's millions of pounds to play for. And without the Olympics, it kind of just derails, you know, from walking into a boxing club to becoming an undisputed world champion. It just fragments the road, and then all of a sudden you've got to try and find a way where you've gone off road to get back on track in the pros. This is a natural process of walking through a boxing club and winning all the championship titles, getting recognised by GB, and also the funding for Team GB. Like, I'm so proud of Team GB and the job that Rob McCracken does up at EIS. It's such a brilliant facility that without the Olympics, I don't think the funding would be there to maintain that development system.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, massive moment. I'm very pleased. And by the way, it should stay in the Olympics. It's the best thing to watch in the Olympics. Outside of the 100 metres, what else is exciting as the boxing in the Olympics?
That's right.
So fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. And I know I did say last one, but it's just come into my mind now. Speaking about bets there and speaking about fines, also we know Chris Eubank Jr. got fined 100 grand by the board for the slap on Conor Benn. And I wanted to get your opinion on it. You know, Paul Smith Jr. He was pretty open about it and sort of saying, where did this 100 grand go? Sort of questioning like where it goes. And speaking about it, like wanting it to sort of be reinvested in fighters who've struggled. And like, what do you make of that?
As I understand it, I think the board commented that part of that fine goes into a fund for ex-boxers and stuff like that, which is great. Now, how much of that fine? I will say this as well, like the board have, I say, a business to run, but they have, you know, they have a huge amount of costs as well. They have the head office, they have staff, you know, they have doctors, they have all that kind of stuff. So sometimes the sanction fees and fines also go to the running costs of the organisation. But for an amount like that, I do feel like a substantial amount should be donated to ex-boxers. I'm sure it is, but I guess the pressure's on the board to say, well, how much? You know, maybe it's a portion of that. What are you talking, 5 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand, 75 grand? I don't know, but
just because I spoke to Spencer Oliver and even Nick Blackwell, they spoke about it, and they said they never really received a cent from the board. So when you do hear that, like, do you think that there is a point saying, look, you know, these guys have given so much to sport, it's right to look after them as well?
Look, it's all of our responsibility, anyone that does well out of the sport, to reinvest back into the sport. You know, whether that's into the grassroots, whether that's charity projects, whether that's donating to the families of people, you know, and we do that a lot. You know, we don't go out there and tweet about it and publicise about it because we feel like it's our responsibility to do so. But at the same time, I think there should be some kind of, you know, public scheme that does do that for fighters where they can go. You know, it's not just a case of us reaching out to a family. I think even us, we should put some kind of scheme together with the industry to make sure that that's funded, so that when fighters do need help and care, it's there for them to be applied for. And yeah, it'd be interesting to know. It's a lot of money, 100 grand. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Eddie, always a pleasure, mate. Really appreciate your time, mate. Top man, thank you.